Alright folks, so here's the messy mad scientist room. No mean comments online. It is very messy, but I've had it this way for about 19 years or so, and it's been working great. So even though it's messy, it does work. Here we go. The first thing you'll notice is that I'm a big, huge fan of the Agway stock tanks. That's a 250-gallon stock tank, and that's a 150-gallon stock tank. Obviously, that's my main sump, and this is the tank that I use for water changes. Load it up with 150 gallons of water, and then change it out only about once a quarter now that I have the refugium set up. I don't do water changes as often as I used to. I have, in terms of the only real equipment that I have on the tank, I have an old Neptune Peck system. And right now I'm only monitoring two elements, the temperature and the pH. That's pretty much all I monitor. And as far as filtration goes, I'm very old school. I have a Beckett style skimmer. This is called an HSA 1000. But I've had this for pretty much as long as I've had my reef set up. And I just love it to death. It's hooked up to a monster pump. It's hooked up to an Iwaki 100. And the amount of water that goes through this every day is just enormous. You can tell I get very good buildup here, and I skim very wet, so I get this full of wet skimming about twice a week. I have to empty it. So it skims very wet and pulls out a lot of gunk. I really can't say enough about these skimmers. I know today it's very popular to go with the low power needle wheel style skimmers, but I really believe that these things just do an incredible job. The only other addition is recently, because of some videos that I saw done by Bulk Reef Supply, I decided to go ahead and try a refugium. And so I put this on, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago or so. It's got the typical Chaetomorpha algae in there, and I have to take out a ball of algae, I don't know, once a month or so. But again, I just can't say enough about how this system is working. I really like it. I really think it's doing a great job. I have just zero algae problem in my main display tank now that I've set this system up. I did try to do it inexpensively because I had this tank, so the only thing I needed was some sort of overflow, so I went with one of these inexpensive external overflows, and of course, just like everybody else, I did experience a flooding in the basement. Fortunately, the pump only pulls off about 1 inch of water from the sump, so the flood here in the basement was fairly minimal. But as a result, I put on this shutoff, so now if the water level increases too high, it shuts off the pump. But since that flooding, I haven't had any problem with the overflow since then. But that's it. I've got a skimmer and a refugium and a big old sump, and no other chemical filtration at all. So that's Joe Peck's Reef. Thanks for having a look.